When you play your favorite games, what parts of yourself are you trying to portray? Could it be the knight in shining armor that defeats the monster and saves the day? A super soldier that takes matters into their own hands and finishes the fight single-handedly? Or are you living out an evil power fantasy, making all that stand before you fear your presence? One of the many wonderful things video games has brought to us is the ability to express ourselves by extending our identity into the virtual beings we play as. Whether that involves playing as a pre-made protagonist or creating your own custom characters, we can live out numerous experiences just by pressing the start button. On this episode of GameSpeak, I want to learn more about how players express their identities through video games, asking questions like, what methods are used to have the player show an extension of themselves through video games? What are the key differences in expressiveness with pre-made characters versus custom-made characters? And how can one shape or change their identity through different experiences in video games? So let's start messing around with those customization sliders so we can jump right in. Now, before we can start explaining how we express our identity in video games, we first need to know what identity is. Psychologist Daniel Beverly describes identity as follows. The concept of identity is a complex one, shaped by individual characteristics, family dynamics, historical factors, and social and political contexts. Who am I? The answer depends in a large part on who the world around me says I am. Who do my parents say I am? Who do my peers say I am? What message is reflected back to me in the faces and voices of my teachers, my neighbors, store clerks? What do I learn from the media about myself? How am I represented in the cultural images around me? Or am I missing from the picture altogether? These questions can be asked and or acted out in video games as well. Who are you? What is your character's background? Does the faction you side with have the same beliefs as you? Do you care about how your friends in your party view you? Now, obviously, we are not looking in the mirror. The character you play as, or the one you create, doesn't have your memories and life experiences, but they do allow you to either handpick the experiences you would like to have, or have them play out how you think is best. They can even expose us to brand new experiences, subjecting us to new ways of thinking that could further shape our identity. In his article explaining how he exposes kids to new experiences through gaming in the classroom, Luke writes, as a social studies teacher, it's incredibly important to teach your students perspective or point of view. You do not teach dates and facts as is properly stereotyped, but instead you try to teach your students how to analyze and understand the world both past and present. So instead of simply teaching that something happened, we try to explore why it happened, what led to it, or who was affected by the event, and how. Perspective is present at each of these steps and incredibly linked to identity, both in the way people acted, past and present, and how we interpret events ourselves. Perspective helps us understand, but our own identities can also hold us back from seeing things in a different light. Luke then goes on to explain how video games offer players alternative views to experiences, as we are seeing the world portrayed through someone else's eyes. But since we are still the ones behind the controller, we are pushed into new ways of thinking. Sure, we may be playing as the rough and tough outlaw Arthur Morgan, but it's still us that makes the choices that are laid out in front of him. Do we choose to help that man by getting his horse back? Or do we take advantage of his bad luck and throw him in the dirt and take his money? Or nothing at all. Arthur is still Arthur, but the choice on how he acted was you, the player. Now, how does expression of identity compare to when we are no longer filling the shoes of a pre-made protagonist? Before we had it all laid out, our character, backstory, personality, and the choices that could go along with what we believe is right, or the opposite. But now it's all on you. Appearance, abilities, personality, and their goals. You can argue that by personally making your own character, you can feel more immersed in the game that you are playing, because it is essentially a blank slate for you to project the identity that you want to portray the most in your adventure. There is also the argument that the blank slate protagonist is at risk of making the story feel less immersive and having the play feel more like an observer than an actual character in the story. In his article talking about the 3 types of protagonists, Craig Ellsworth writes, one problem that arises from the blank slate is that there is quite often less interaction with the story, making the player less of a protagonist and more of a side character, observer, or sometime agent. He then goes on to talk about the ending of Myst, a choose-your-own-adventure book that was written in 1993, but I haven't read the book myself, and I'm sure that some of you watching haven't as well. But I found a similar controversy in the gaming space that we all might recognize better. The Mass Effect trilogy was one of the most popular action story-based games for the time. It emphasized that the choices you made throughout the entirety of the series would greatly impact your experience throughout the games, from major plot points to even what playable characters survived. Unfortunately, players felt this concept was abandoned during the ending of the third game, where you are met with 3 possible choices that made all of the hours of interacting with characters and making these story-impacting decisions feel pointless, as it was only leading to a direct path that is out of your control, in the end having players feel more like an observer and less like an impactful protagonist. It was so badly received that BioWare had to release a free DLC to try and fix the ending. But what does bad writing have to do with identity? Well, stories have a huge impact on the human experience, whether you are just listening or telling one. Each one of these stories has a cause and effect that are all formed around the decisions made and how it shapes someone. Like in Tainted Grail, I chose to side with this faction, and in turn, that decision got the other faction destroyed, but also brought glory back to a clan that lost their way. Now, this outcome isn't solely unique to me. It's very possible that someone else can have this same experience, but it still happened based on my decisions, making me feel more immersed in the game's world and how I can express myself. When you take away that impact of cause and effect and have the player in their adventure with something that they didn't cause, it ruins the effect. In other words, what was the point? The hare didn't lose to the tortoise because the world suddenly exploded. He lost because he chose to be cocky, losing the race that should have been a guaranteed win, teaching him humility and sportsmanship, overall changing his identity. Now, plot is not the only method used for portraying identity. It is also the player's sense of purpose in the game, and I believe that the silent protagonist is the best tool to show that purpose. Silent protagonists are kind of like the hybrid of pre-made and blank slates, as their lack of voice makes them feel like a vehicle, getting the player right into the game and eliminating the burdens of in-depth customization, because not everyone wants to spend 5 hours adjusting their character's nose height. Minecraft Steve, the protagonist from the Persona series, and the Destin one from Black Myth Wukong are all great examples, as they can show extensions of your identity whether there's a plot or not. Let's look at our first example, Steve. We all know that Minecraft as a game is not plot-centric. However, I bet you can recall thousands of memories either playing by yourself in survival or maybe on a server with friends. And while playing, you made something, created inside jokes, and impacted the world around you. At face level, you're already expressing yourselves with the skins you decide to wear, and you have the choice to make them as complex as you want by either making your own or downloading a pre-made one. My current skin is Finn from Adventure Time because it's my favorite show. This skin is projecting part of my identity because it shows something about me. As for the game itself, I feel the expression of identity is shown how you decide to play Minecraft. Are you more creation focused and mainly play in creative mode to build artistic structures or redstone machines? Do you crave challenges and like playing in hardcore survival, only utilizing optimal items and strategies to last as long as you can? Or are you competitive and like playing on multiplayer servers to go head to head with other players in a variety of minigames? And that's only scratching the surface of the amount of expressiveness Minecraft has to offer, and the character you play as doesn't say one word. So what did we learn? Media has always been a massive influence in shaping our lives, and with video games, it gives us the opportunity to express our identity unlike anything else. We can live the lives as someone else and shape their stories based on our beliefs or curiosities, which can push us into new ways of thinking that affects both us in game and in reality. We can create our own characters to show ourselves or someone else, giving the adventures we go on a more personal experience, or show what we are like with gameplay alone, feeding our desires with challenges, creative impulses, or competition. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found something interesting about the topics discussed today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Sure, we may be playing as the rough and tough outlaw Argamorgan. My name Argamorgan Dirch. I gotta get to Hergabergen down to Tahiti.
Hello everyone, it is an end card. I haven't done one of these in a while, but let me start off by saying thank you so much for watching until the very end. That really means a lot to me. Yeah, I guess I just kind of wanted to connect with you guys on a more personal level. Haven't done that in a while, but here we are. I've been doing good. I've been very busy, hence why the 2-month gap in between videos. But it also has to do with that GameSpeak is a very difficult show to make. It involves a lot of research, it involves a lot of specific footage gathering, and it also involves a lot of patience. Because I have to make sure my facts are good, I have to make sure I'm coherent, and I have to make sure that what is on screen somewhat reflects what I'm talking about, but all in all, it's been really fun making videos. The last 2 videos were kind of like my swan song, honestly. Even though they didn't like blow up, they got a lot more interaction than what I'm normally used to getting, and it kind of lit a fire underneath me as I go through some difficult life changes, changing careers, choosing to go back to school, as well as just try and manage my own business as well as my own habits. But yeah, something keeps calling me back to making videos, and I don't know what it is. Other than that, it's just fun, and the interaction that I get from you guys is always worth it, whether if it's criticism or just saying, hey, you did a good job, or even when you guys add your own input to these videos. And as my content changes over the years from just having fun with friends to reviewing games to now studying game design, it's just been like a very opening, blossoming passion that is probably the most satisfying it's ever been in my 10 years of making videos. So, sorry for ranting, but then again, you know what you were getting into when you got this far. But thank you for watching again, and I can't wait to show you more things I've been working on. Bye.